Welcome back to the show. This is your host, Lisa Zhang on Live Out Loud. We are here today with two special guests, and we're taping out of my home in honor of Mother's Day. And a couple months ago, we celebrated International Women's Day. So today I brought in two wonderful guests here that you guys will meet shortly, and in my humble home because they're wonderful sisters of mine, and I figure we have a casual conversation today. I'll focus primarily on self-love and how we've illustrated that in our lives as Hmong women, wearing multiple hats. And so these two wonderful guests are my sisters, Tina Vang and Sidi Yang from our Hmong community. So you'll get to meet them and get to know them a little bit more in their journey on self-love and how they've carried that in their life, in their journey thus far. So we're gonna go meet them. Welcome, Sidi and Tina. Thank you so much for joining me today on Live Out Loud. It's such an honor.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, of course. So my first question to you then is, talk a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to this point.
So I have a blog online. So I do a women empowerment blog. And I think just doing that and why I got to where I got to was because just I think growing up as a young girl, being in a home where I felt very limited as a Hmong girl, and just not really feeling like I had a voice to voice out anything that I felt. And so most of my life I felt like I grew up not really being able to express or fully understand myself. And so I think last year when I started my women empowerment blog and doing all the Damn You're Beautiful projects and everything, I think that really was just able to show what I really want to give to the world. And this is just kind of like a general, we can go more into it deeper.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Great. What about you, Tina? Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, for me, I think it started with, I think a lot of Hmong women can relate with my story too, because I got married young at the age of 15 and then became a mom the following year, and it seemed like my life and all my priorities was kind of just rolled in front of me, you know. And after having 3 kids and everything, a full-time job, you know, you look on the outside and it looks like I have it all. You know, I have a home in the suburb, a great marriage, I have 3 beautiful kids, and loving family all around me. And, you know, my kids are getting older too. And so, you know, like once they need less of you, then you're like kind of like, well, what do I do with my time now, you know? And I think it started with learning to really deal with some of my own deepest thoughts and emotions and feelings, you know, a lot of those deep questions that you have in the back of your mind. Even when I was in my early 20s, I really questioned myself, is there more to life than just this? Because it's a daily routine, and I think a lot of people, or a lot of us, get stuck into this daily routine, but then in some sense you feel like you have a sense of responsibility that there's got to be more to life than just this. Don't get me wrong, I love being a wife and a mom, and knowing that I'm working to provide, but then it hit me really hard in 2018 to realize that yes, there is more to life than just this. And so then my journey to self-love kind of just unfolded from there. So yeah.
Okay. What about you, Sidi? I know that a lot of what you do in your campaign, Damn You're Beautiful, has kind of gone really viral with a lot of communities, and, you know, within the Hmong community too. Like a lot of, especially women in our community, really knows your campaign well now, and knows kind of what you stand for. So can you share a little bit about how you came to that and why?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, right when you was talking about, you know, asking those deep questions, I was like, oh yes, that's exactly what I was doing. I think I can relate really well to that because yeah, I feel like I have a really good life too. I have 2 parents in my life, I have siblings, we have a home, and I went to school, I have a degree now, but I think after college I still felt really lost because I felt like I was just doing what I'm supposed to be doing and doing what I'm being told. I mean, I've always been a rebellious kid, and I've always done what I want, but I still wanted to please my parents and do what they wanted me to do, and I still continue to do that. And after I graduated, I still felt like I didn't know who I was, or I didn't get that dream job. And so I just felt really lost. And that was actually when I started to do the blog, and I started to think about, what have I been struggling with? What do I want to heal in myself and give to the world? And a lot of times it was because of me. I feel like when I identify as a woman, that's something that I've been struggling with all my life, and just not understanding how to be the woman that I want and how to be confident as the woman that I want to be. And so I was like, how can I show women, that they're beautiful, and tell them that they don't need to go looking for love or to go find someone else to validate them, right? And so I just it just came into my head one day when I was working one of my part-time retail jobs after college, at a makeup store, because it was really dead that morning, and I was just thinking about that, thinking about those deep questions, thinking about what I want to do, how there's this big drive in me to just tell women, you girls are so worth it. What can I say? And it just came into my mind, just, damn, you're beautiful. Every woman wants to know that they're beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
And so that's why I just started writing down everything that I want with the project. And so I started my blog in July 2018, and I launched it in November. And it's just a message. It's just a movement to show women that, you're beautiful. And I'm not talking about what's on the outside. I'm talking about what's inside of you too. And most of the time, women, we judge each other so much, and we're so critical of each other. So it's also a movement to build sisterhood and encourage positive woman vibes, So
yeah, no, I love that, because you guys know me, I have a young daughter, 10 years old, and so she's at a point in her life where she's starting to look at beauty and how people, society defines beauty, right? And oftentimes it seems it's on the outside only, and so I always struggle with a conversation with her about, around beauty and how you define that, and then that it is skin deep too. It's not just what's on the exterior, right? Because, she's really interested in putting on makeup and all that stuff, and just to make her feel more beautiful on the outside. And so anytime she brings makeup up, this question of, Mom, can I wear makeup? I always try to, I discourage her, honestly, because oftentimes society says, you're beautiful if you're tall, skinny, and blonde, or and you have to cover your face up with makeup or a ton of makeup and whatever to make you beautiful, and that's not true, right? So in your experience, you shaved your head, for example, to kind of redefine your own beauty, right?
I did.
So
I forgot.
That is so great.
Sometimes I forget I shaved my
it's
head.
So natural now. It's so natural.
Oh yeah, I did.
Well, there you go. And it's all about feeling good in your own skin at the end of the day, right? Because you could cover yourself up with all these fancy clothes, fancy hairdo, pretty makeup on your face, but then are you happy with yourself at the end of the day, who you are on the inside, right? Do you feel good about that? And that's always something I try to instill in my daughter in our conversations that we have when makeup, conversation around makeup comes up. So yeah, how have you been defining beauty for you?
Yeah. So yes, thank you for reminding me that I shave my head, because sometimes it's so natural that I forget. I was oh yeah, and we just had a conversation earlier about it.
And it's just so much lighter now. It's oh my God, so free.
For real. It's it's really nice, and I think for me, going on my journey of self-love and self-healing, I just want to try to do things that I'm uncomfortable with, or other women may be uncomfortable with, but to show them that it's okay. Of course, I was afraid. I've been wanting to shave my head since last year, but I think I've been putting it off, and I was dancing as well, so I needed my hair for hats and stuff. So that's why I quit dancing this year, and I wanted to shave my head. That was a main reason too. But yeah, my way of trying to redefine my beauty is just to show women that, we put so much importance in our hair, and you don't need it. You don't need it to be beautiful. And it's kind of when I shaved my head, it was kind of a way for me to also start a new beginning, redefine myself. And I'm planning to keep this for a year. It's because I feel like it's not enough for me to shave it once to understand who I am and what's my beauty. Because all my life, I kept long hair because people told me that it was beautiful. People told me that I look good with long hair. People that I've been with say they like women with long hair. So that's why I kept listening, I need to have long hair to be beautiful. But then, I don't know if I can can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I didn't want to swear, but I was just like, fuck it. I just want to, redefine myself, and I don't care. Everybody was telling me not to do it. They was like, oh, you're gonna have a weird head shape and da 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 da. But I was
just all these external noise, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the moment right before, I was just telling Tina earlier when we were talking that I was so scared. I was so afraid that everything they said was right. That I'm gonna cry and regret it after. I'm gonna look weird. People are gonna judge me so much. Da da da. But then I was just like so scared. But when my sister was about to cut it, me and her like did a little prayer together, just like everything will be okay. Yeah. And so when she started cutting it crazily and then shaved it, I just felt so good. Yeah. Because I was like, this is my statement of redefining myself and knowing that I'm still beautiful if I don't have a hair.
Right.
So.
Right. But then in that moment, like before you shave it, it's it holds so much emotion, right? And that's probably because of pressure from society, right?
Always.
Saying like, oh, you have to have long hair as a girl or as a woman to be considered beautiful, right? Yes. So, well, Tina, you have a daughter too. So, like, what has your experience been with her around like this subject of beauty? In the sense of like self-love.
Yeah. So, with my daughter, she's 15 now. So, she's in high school, and there in high school and middle school there's a lot of pressure around beauty, but then at the end of the day, I keep telling my daughter, I said, I love you for who you are, and I admire you for who you are, because she's one where she's not big on makeup, thankfully, and her hair can be a hot mess, but and I told her that yesterday too. I'm like, your hair's a hot mess, but she's like, you know what, it's okay, and she's like, I don't really care, it's just who I am. And so I don't know if I trained her that way, but then in some ways when I was in my younger years, I could see myself in her too. I was kind of that girl where I'm just like, it's okay if I'm wearing wrinkly clothes, so what,
Yeah.
And so and I think she's starting to understand that it's okay to be you, and if other people are looking at you or judging you, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's just as long as you know who you are. And the whole topic about, how do I identify beauty, for me, really, I had to learn it myself too with my self-love journey, is learning to redefine who I was, because I never had that chance, because I was always wearing so many hats as a nya, a daughter-in-law, a sifu, a pastor wife, and being in the community and many eyes on you, and you're so used to carrying all these hats with you that it becomes you, becomes your identity. But then when I started to figure out to learn how to love myself, it was a little scary of knowing that what if people can't face the real me? That was the biggest question I had to face. I'm like, well, my husband still loved me for being me, the real me, because I've always just been wearing all these hats all these years, and trying to please people, live up to people's expectations. But then at the end of the day, I'm still me, and if I don't live up to people's expectations, you know what, I'm gonna have to be okay with it. They have to be okay with it, and whether or not they love me for who I am becoming, the ones who truly love me will always stick through it. Stick with me and love me for who I am.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. So yes to that, right? As long as at the end of the day, like, I'm okay with myself and I know who I am and I'm comfortable in my own skin and how I've, carried myself with people around me, then I can accept rejections because I'm comfortable with who I am with that.
Yeah, like I want to bounce off of that. Is that I can relate with both of you, because I feel like a lot of people go through, especially women. I feel like exactly that, like the fear of if people will accept you.
Yeah, it's the story of so many of us.
Yes, it is. And I just feel like that for me has been the struggle, if people will accept me for who I am. I think I have never really shown people who I really am this all my life, because I'm trying to present someone out there to the community, me trying to do all these things in the community or trying to be there for my family and everything, just wearing so many hats. But inside, I feel like I'm at a very, I'm at a confliction, because I feel like I want to do something else, and I want to be who I am, but I'm so afraid to show you because I'm afraid you won't, you know, like me or accept me for who I am. And I think that's something I'm still struggling with now, and figuring out who am I, and having that courage to show exactly who I am. And that's still my present, trying to figure out how to present myself as me.
Yeah. So with that said, I know you do a lot of spoken word too, and a lot of it is around empowerment and you know, with people being comfortable with who they are and their roots. So can you talk a little bit about that, and like how does that inspire you in your own growth, and how that inspires other people too?
For sure. I mean, for me, it's like writing and words mean so much to me, because like I told you, when I was a kid, I didn't know how to express myself verbally. Like, I have so many thoughts in my mind, but I just always held back my tongue because I don't know, I'm shy. I was a girl. I mean, just all those identities that, you know, I thought limited me as a kid. And so I just grew up never saying anything how I felt, whether I was sad, mad, angry, or anything. But that just carried on with me into like my relationships, like friendships and romantic relationships, where I was angry all the time. And I was so unsure of how I felt, because I would be happy one minute, sad one minute. I would just have so much chaos in my mind. And so I think writing has always helped me figure out who I was, because I couldn't verbally say it. So writing it down made me feel like I understood, and like, oh, that's why I'm mad or sad. Like, this is why. And so I think using that and then putting it into a poetry where I can speak it is even more empowering, because I think writing is it's not giving me as much justice until I can say it, say my story, so have the courage.
How did you come up with the courage to put those writing into words?
I just did it one day. Like, I started pretty late actually in my life. I was writing. I write a lot and write poems, diary. But then when I was a sophomore in college, I had an opportunity. They had a Martin Luther King service day at my university, and they wanted someone to do a spoken word. And then I don't remember if someone asked me or if I initiated, but I just felt like I wanted to do it, so I took initiative. And like that whole week, I just was trying to figure out what to write, and I was so nervous. And I had a boyfriend at the time he stayed up with me until like 4 a.m. the night before, trying to make it like the best and trying to practice it so much, because I was so afraid and I was so nervous. But I think sometimes you just have to do it.
Right.
You just have to do it for your own growth. So even if your voice and your mind is telling you, you know, oh, you're gonna suck, people ain't gonna like it.
Sometimes we're our own harshest critic.
Right. We
and
are.
That's what stops us from doing it.
We are.
And I'm sure that comes from like our culture as well. And like, you know, you go back to your point about, oh, you know, as a kid or a child, you weren't encouraged to speak, and so you didn't share your emotions. And I think that maybe that, like, would you agree that has a lot to do with like our culture and upbringing, and how especially girls were discouraged to share their ideas or opinions, right, or even speak up about anything. So I'm sure it has something to do with that, don't you think?
It definitely does.
Yeah, because I feel like that. Like growing up, like I was discouraged to like speak up. So that's why like when I do community stuff, I'm like, I'm very vocal when I have to be, and so like I want to speak up, but then it's like, will they accept me? You know, as
they think I'm this way.
Are they gonna judge me because I have an opinion, or you know, like I don't know how they're gonna receive that because I want to say something, and so you kind of fight with yourself a lot sometimes. When you want to be your authentic self, but then culturally and just from like society, like you have that pressure to like be suppressed, you know. So it's like you kind of battle with yourself a lot.
Exactly.
I personally with myself, anyways.
No, that same way.
Yeah. Well, and then Tina, like with yourself and like your coaching, right? How you came to that? Can you share a little bit about your journey to now coaching other people too, as you've gone through your own self-discovery journey of, you know, with self-love and caring for yourself and putting yourself on the pedestal as well?
So with my own journey of really redefining who I am and who I am becoming, I was trying to figure out, like, really, I was talking to God and I said, what do you want what do you want from this, you know? And the more I dug into it, the more I started to find out that there's this huge coaching community. And I had no idea that that even existed. So it's kind of mentoring people, helping them grow, whether if it's in business, self-love, spiritual. There's a huge, it's a very broad business. But then I decided to just call myself a life coach because I really want to teach women how to love themselves and what it really means. And so I was able to coach 3 women beginning of the year, and to see them kind of shift their mindset, you know, and to see the results, I was just kind of like proud of myself because I haven't had any formal training to becoming a life coach, but I was also testing the waters and what my capabilities are, and some of these daily exercises or daily habits that I had to build in for myself to teach these women these new daily habits to see if it worked for them and to see the results. I was very happy, and to see that it does help them. And so that's kind of how I started my whole life coach business, and just my huge niche is just on self-love, because self-love is like, you know, how do you teach someone to love yourself if you don't even know where to start? You know, I feel like, I tell people, I feel horrible for my husband because I got married so young and I made him responsible of loving me. And I never knew that there was an option of even learning to love myself. So once I started to learn to love myself, I started to value myself more and my own worth, rather than waiting on people to validate me and to find my worth. You know, rather than finding my worth within people, I had to find my own worth. And it's really trying to understand what that meant. But after finding and validating my own worth, it allowed me to become more confident. It allowed me to become more decisive in what I was going to do. It allowed me to be more selective in who I'm hanging out with, where am I going, and do I want to use my time and energy and where I'm going, you know, and learning to say no, and it's okay. Being protected of your time and your energy is huge. And so that's kind of where, you know, my whole journey of self-love and evolving into, you know, what should I do with this? You know, I've helped myself through this, and I want to somehow help others. And so then that's kind of where coaching came into place. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's what God wants me to do, is to really help coach these women. Because if I'm struggling with it, I'm sure there's many other women who are struggling with self-love too, or trying to even understand what that means.
Seeking love from or holding others accountable for loving you instead of you building that. Like when it comes to self-love, I find that that's so true with many women, in particular, like among women, right? We always look for others to love us. And then so when that person is no longer around, like everything just collapsed, right? And I'm all about loving people and finding love with other folks. But at the end of the day, like for me, you have to love yourself too, right? So you know where you stand, right? And you're able to stand on your 2 feet when that person's no longer around, right? And it's a lot, personally for me, I feel like it's a lot of burden to hold someone accountable to love you, right? So what has been your experiences, ladies, with that?
I definitely, gosh, that's like my whole life. Because I feel like I think, as a young girl, young teenager, you don't understand that concept of self-love, because you are empty in a sense. Like if you grew up with some sort of trauma or some sort of pain, then you feel empty, or you feel like you've lacked love somewhere in your life. Then you try to find that in someone, and you don't understand that you're supposed to do that with yourself first. So I did that so much as a young girl, like a young teenager, trying to find love in other people, in people that I was in relationships with, and like feeling down and sad, and like, oh, my whole world is like crashing down, because, you know, they don't love you the way you want them to, or the way you expect them to, or the way you assume them to, you know. But that's such a burden on you and a burden on them to put so much expectations on that person, because you're not aware that the only love that you want from them is only from yourself. And that's the reason why I do what I do too, because I want women and young girls to understand that, especially young girls. I want to impact young girls, teenagers, because I think that's like their most vulnerable state, where they've already kind of created a worldview and kind of understood like, oh, this is how it is. And it's like it's a place where they're still trying to find themselves, and if they don't find it there, then they're going to continue to be lost. And so I really want to show like the young girls that, you know, you have to start with yourself. And it just hurts me. It hurts me so bad, because I've danced with a lot of young girls. I've always been around young teenagers. I have 2 cousins who are teenagers and a sister who's a teenager, so I'm always around them, and I understand, like, I feel the pain and the hurt that they feel, and that how they're trying to run to, you know, relationships to get that love. And I'm just trying to show them that that's not the way, you know.
By setting examples. So that's great. What about you, Tina?
Yeah, gosh, getting married so young, that whole responsibility was put on my husband's shoulder, and I didn't realize I was doing that. And then along came my kids, and I kind of felt the same way on my kids, where I was hitting a point where I started to seek happiness in anything and everything, in any person, literally in my husband, my kids, to make me happy, in materialistic things to make me happy. And at the end of the day, you know, seriously, in the beginning of 2018, I hit a wall, and I probably did hit a point where I was a little depressed, and I was literally binging on social media for hours, not understanding what was happening to me. And you know, I have everything that I need and I want in life, but why do I feel this way? Why do I have this emptiness in my life? And so then to really acknowledge and try to get myself out of this whole, you know, depressed, low phase in my life, I really had to understand what was going on in my mind. And it was I didn't realize that how much burden of learning to love myself was such a big deal. And once I started to really learn to love who I became more confident who I am as a person. And I truly think that my husband himself started to see a slight difference in who I was becoming. He's just like, you're more definitive with your choices, you know, like decisions that you make. You say yes or no, you know, and you know what you want. Whereas before, I didn't know what I want. I was indecisive, and I reacted to life rather than being proactive to life. So learning to love myself, I learned to be more intentional with my time and just being more proactive.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay, well, ladies, we're running out of time on screen anyways, and, you know, we will always continue to have these conversations off screen, but for the sake of today's show, what is your last advice that you would give to the girls or the women that you are helping or you want to help? And what is the outcome that you would love to see in an ideal person that you've come to contact with in the work that you do?
Yeah, well, for me then, being a life coach is the outcome that I would love to see in any woman that comes through my coaching courses, is someone who actually learns and knows how to love themselves to the fullest, and also really know that they have control of their own mindset. It's really up to you on how you want to identify who you are and who you are becoming, and know that you are the boss of your own mind. And don't allow other people to dictate who you are, and don't allow society to. Becoming a woman or being a woman in society, there's so much standard that we have to meet, but then, you know, everyone is built and born in a unique way, and so then just really show up on who you are and show the world and boast in it. And I think women, we should uplift each other rather than compete with each other too. And so really the outcome is really knowing who you are and knowing your worth, your own worth. Don't allow society or other people to really identify your worth. So that's kind of my outcome.
Yeah. Thank you. That's beautiful. What about you, City?
Yeah, I had to think about this one. I mean, just one. I think I would say, like, the reason why I do this, like, my last advice is just, I just want women, especially start at a young age, to realize who they are. Like, know who you are. Like, know who you are for who you are. Like, not as a girl, not as a student, a daughter, not as a soccer player, a football player. like who are you
At the core.
at the core,
Mm-hmm.
and don't run into anyone's arms to find out who you are. Like run into your own arms,
Okay.
and think deep about who you are,
That's
and wake up.
Great.
Wake up.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. It's been a pleasure to sit down with you guys and just learn a little bit about kind of your thought process behind where you got to where you are. And you guys know I love you so much, and I, aspire to you, and I admire you guys for what you do in the community and around women empowerment and just promoting self-love and self-care. So I'm all about that too, personally. So I really appreciate you guys. So thank you for sharing your story with me. I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you.
for
It
having
was a
us.
pleasure.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, well, that is the end of our show. Thanks for joining me and my two wonderful Hmong sister guests, City Yang and Tina Vang, here on today's special episode, filmed at my home. I hope that you guys have a wonderful Mother's Day, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye.